The future isn't coming, it's here. We stand at the crossroads of ancient wisdom and cutting edge innovation, stepping into our highest potential. This is the golden age, and every one of us has a role in shaping what comes next. I'm Dr. Tia Kansara. Welcome to Together We Rise. We are living through profound cosmic shifts. Humanity is awakening, aligning with forces greater than ourselves, sparking creativity, connection, and collaboration. This is not a time of uncertainty, it's a time of power. In Together We Rise, we bring you the voices redefining our era. Visionaries, creators, heart-centered leaders. This is where sovereignty, regeneration, and unity take center stage. We are the change. Decisions made today will echo for generations. This is your invitation to be part of the conversation, to shape the solutions, to co-create the future. Join us on Unite.live for Together We Rise, because the world doesn't just need change, it needs you. We're here, we're ready, Together We Rise. Welcome to Together We Rise, a series dedicated to unity consciousness, a collective rite of passage. I'm your host, Dr. Tia Kansara, and this series is brought to you by Unite.live, a multimedia platform that promotes personal sovereignty and replenish Earth, a cause and a collective action to protect the global commons, the natural resources we all share. It is an absolute pleasure to have the Bradley Freedom with us today. Brad is the visionary behind the Freedom People. The Freedom People empower individuals like myself, like yourselves, through education on sovereignty, legal literacy, and personal rights. When I was first introduced to your work, Brad, I was pleasantly surprised that there was an entire alternative economic system that could give people actual freedom, none of this like carrot dangling stuff. And to our audience, please join me in welcoming Brad to Together We Rise.
Thank you, Tia. This is it's a real honor. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes, I'm super inspired by your work, but I would love for our audience to also understand what it was that inspired you to start the Freedom People. Was there like a particular moment or an experience that ignited this journey for you?
Yeah, good question. It was it was more of a series of things that really happened. It was so I was in the military when I was younger. I joined when I was 17. I left just after my 18th birthday, and I was all gung-ho, believing everything, the narrative. And then December of 97, I kind of had this rude awakening that CNN was lying to us. And right now, right now, everybody knows that. But back in the late 90s, this, we didn't have the internet like we do today, right? It existed. Obviously, it started in the 70s by the military, and we started to have it, right? America Online and these things, right? And we started getting Windows like 95 and things like that. Windows 3.11 with networking. Sorry, getting way too geeky here. But the point is that at that time, you didn't go to CNN.com to get news, right? And it was very tightly controlled through the television. You had TV and you had print, and that's how what I came to realize was that's how they construct our reality for us. Your reality is told to you, and unless you actually make a concerted effort to go in and change that, it's given to you, right? So that kind of December 97, right? And so then I really stopped caring about being in the military, in the Marines. I was in the Marines, and I just kind of stopped caring. It was all false. I was there under false pretenses, and I was actually very angry for a very long time. Early 2000s, maybe mid 2000, 2005, something like that. I started the libertymovement.org. And that was really kind of set up to help people, to educate people that the Federal Reserve Bank was privately owned and that our currency and the dangers of fiat. Right. And so that's what this was like kind of back in 2005, and people weren't ready for the information. 2008, 2009, I kind of uh, lost hope, so to speak. I just kind of got tired of being the guy at the party screaming at everybody and telling them that, you're screwed or money, and nobody likes that at a party, but that's all I could think about. And it just engulfed my life. Right. And so 2009, it was 2008 and us bailing out the banks. I was just like, you know what? It's a lost cause. We are 100% lost cause. And then, fast forward 2020. And then I don't know, something inside just told me it was go time. As soon as they started to try the tyrannical behavior and imposing whatever it may be, lockdowns, masks, I don't remember, whatever it was, I was like, absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're going all in and we're going hard. Right. And then here we are 5 years later, 4 years, almost 5 years later. And we've grown so immensely. And that's because people are ready for this message now. So that it was more of a series of things that happened. It wasn't like one specific thing that
What I'm
started the freedom.
hearing is it's about timing.
Mm,
And
an
it's like,
idea that its time has come. Yeah.
right. And your timing, 1997, hop, skip, jump, 2000, 2005 to like, what are we doing 2020? Like, what are we doing in 2020, 2008? Like, what are we bailing people out for having done
Banks.
intensely wrong? And then hop, skip, jump, we're in 2024 and people are definitely questioning things. Definitely. It's just even if they've been in hologram TV mode this entire time or paid reality media mode all this time, there is a question about what freedom means. And Brad, I'd love to know what would you how would you define freedom and what does it mean to live freely in today's world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it means a little bit different, something different to everyone, and that's because everyone's experience is different. The
Yeah.
way that I find it for me is that it's it's very connected to my spiritual experience and and the timing. And then now that you can look back, right? I can look back over the past 30 years and kind of see this progression. And it's super connected to my spiritual, right? And that the freer you become inside, the freer your outside has to start to take shape and to reflect that. And so it's all different levels. I mean, I joined the Marines as a kid, right? A teenage kid, believing that I was going to fight for peace.
Yeah.
Right. But it's
Right.
like
We're
fighting for
gonna
peace
save
is like,
people.
that's ridiculous, right? That you can't punch somebody in the face to teach them that punching somebody in the face is bad, right? It's like, but that's kind of the psychology behind it, right? That's the mindset. It's just, but of course, I was a kid and I believed all that, and I thought I was going to actually fight for peace, for freedom, so to speak. But freedom's an inside job, just like love. It's one and the same. I've come to realize is there's two core emotions. There's fear and there's love. Everything else is an offshoot or a different lens, a variation of the fear and the love, right? So we either have fear and control or love and freedom.
Mm,
And for
mhm.
me, freedom just means it means everything. And that's why with the freedom people, that's why we've implemented a lot of the solutions that we've implemented, because we had to, because they were for us. And really we want to be the freedom people here now is becoming like the beacon of light, which is what we wanted to be, is like a lighthouse for the people that are ready to hear the information. Because that's another thing. As you step through this, 30 years ago, I was not nearly ready to hear the information that I'm speaking about now. It's just, it probably would have broke me in a really, really harsh way. right? I was broken, but well, I was bent, but I wasn't broken, right? Because obviously I'm still
Mhm.
here. And when I mean broken to the place where you end up in a mental institute or you end up deceased, right? And so I wasn't broken, but I was bent really bad.
Mhm.
And my experience was I had nobody around, and I lost family members, like literally lost family members who died, never spoke to me again because I was trying to tell them about the Federal Reserve Bank. Right. And so we want to try and communicate this information as best as we can. So we created these animated videos, right? So we got a lot of animated videos, the solutions, like we've got a trust. We have our 5 pillars of freedom transformation course, which we can talk about throughout, but that's really health, wealth, education, spirituality, and law, right? And if we can take those 5 areas of our lives and work at being more free in each area, the definition of what freedom means to you will be just like it is to me, which is unless I can move freely in this experience. And what I mean is that's why for me, I won't even have my full freedom until I have private travel, until I can get on a plane right now and travel to Europe and not have to go through a bunch of people searching me and frisking me and making me a criminal, then I'm still not free. I'm not free because I'm still filing forms with government agencies to protect my assets and be free. See, none of us are really free on that level, but the things I'm saying to some people sounds freaking nuts. You know what I mean? Like having your baby at home. Me and my wife, we had our baby at home. That's freedom. We had no doctor, no nurse, no midwife, no nothing. That's freedom. Also, there's a lot of responsibility in that, right? And so that's what I mean is that it's different for everybody, and it changes for you over time. So as of right now, where I sit, it means that it means my ability to move freely. It means my ability to make all the decisions for me and my family without interference from some sort of third party who thinks they know how to run my life better than I do.
And that's beautiful because there is innate a level of responsibility and agency that for so long it hasn't been evoked. It's there. It just hasn't been evoked. And when I observe, the impact that your words are having on me, I'm appreciating just how much of that inner journey of make or break that you've been through, where, yes, you could have ended up in a mental asylum. Yes, you could have
Mhm.
been dead. You're not. So then there's a third way in that, and that is realization. That is understanding. That is compassion. That is forgiveness. That is love. And I believe that when we begin to use discernment, not judgment, discernment, in knowing what's important for us, we're also able to cultivate not just that inner outer integrity, but a level of community that's cultivated so that we can build society in the way that a foundational stone is put into a house before you build it. So it's almost as if people are magnetized to that core of truth,
Mm.
and everybody has the right to their truth, which I think is the basis of what sovereignty means for me as well, in that you have the freedom to hold that truth and to also be inspired by others and to have that the inspirational breath, right? Like inspirare, which is the etymology of inspiration. And I almost feel like it's breathing together. And what comes to mind is, when the forehead is brought together by people and they take a deep breath together and say aloha. And it's that moment where it's like, we're in it together. We're here taking the most sacred, sacrament, which is the air that we breathe. So simple and so beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. It's the breath. That's something I'm big in, right? So back to the 5 pillars of freedom, we have health, wealth, education, spirituality, and law. Not in that exact order, because the way that we do our course is we first start with health, right? Because we believe that unless so we're toxified like to the gills, like the water, the air, the food.
Right.
I mean, and so detoxing the body and cleaning the pineal gland, I think it's essential for information to be able to be um, understood. Yeah. So it's more like the comprehension. And I believe that understanding comes from that inner work. And what's really helped me get there many occasions, just this morning, I was in the sauna over here doing pranayama, right? Doing pranayama breath, breathing exercises, breath. We can live months without food. Like literally, you can do a 40-day fast. It's okay. So we can live months without food, weeks without water, and minutes without breath.
Mm,
Breath, the chi, the prana, the energy, the source energy that runs through us. And not only that, but the breath is what cleans our blood. That's what brings oxygen to us. That's what cleans the body. So for me, I haven't been sick in many years, but anytime I start to feel anything, congestion, anything, I go sit in a very hot sauna and I do like 20, 30, 40 minutes of heavy breathing. And then I come out right as rain and nothing ever happens.
incredible.
So the breath, it's not just it's everything. It's the connection, right? And then when you start to use that and you use it in rhythm and you realize it's the cycles of the breath, it's the cycles of the day, it's the cycles of the week, the month, the year. Even though they're messing with our Gregorian calendar and all that kind of thing, the calendars, but that's another topic. But yeah, the breath is essential, and then health, like we were saying. So health makes way for the spiritual connection. Then once we can be healthy, like on a physical level, our vessels. Once our vessels clean, then we can get that clearer connection to source, and then we can start the discernment process between the mind and the heart, right? And then we make that connection. And there's a group out there, the Heart Math Institute, if you know who they are. They've been doing really cool stuff for a long time, like the coherence meditations, the heart to head, right? The longest journey you'll ever take is 18 inches from the head to the heart. And that's where we're making, and that's what's so essential. But if you're so clouded because of the toxins, if you don't have that, then it makes it very difficult to discern and hear source, hear God, hear, whatever you want to say, your creator's voice over the mental chatter of the mind.
Mm,
Once you get clear, then we could start to do that. And then we start to implement the other three pillars. And that's kind of how the courses go out. But to me, there's nothing more important than that. That's the foundation. Like you were saying, if there was a stone, or that's really the foundation that needs to be there. That's it. Everything is inside out. Everything, your spiritual, your healing, everything. If you're outside yourself, you're always going to be without. And that's just the way it is. Be within and you'll never be without. Right.
mhm. That's beautiful,
Um,
but really
it's
beautifully put.
important.
That's the inspiration I think that we get from having, the availability of so much wealth of philosophy, of methodologies that are ancient, indigenous, you know, the anthropology of understanding how we can weave in and out of all of these different practices that are available to us today, because maybe we don't have to go all the way to India and sit in a cave to be able to
Totally.
achieve those things, but maybe we can build out like a home sauna with the capacity that we have at home, or go and visit, like a location that we can learn about these things. And I feel that sometimes we can be quite inspired by others in our community. And I'd love to know, particularly from, your community within Freedom People, do you have any stories of what has particularly moved you or inspired you from your community?
Hmm. Yeah, I do. Uh, it, it's every, so one of the solutions that we offer is a trust. It's called a foreign express trust. They're private trust. They're outside of the corporations, the public corporations, which we can get into that later if we have time, or maybe another time, because there's a lot there, right? So we help people set up these private trusts that essentially help you um, pass on the assets that you've acquired in your life in perpetuity in a irrevocable foreign express trust, right? Every community member that we have that does this process is an inspiration to me, right?
Mm,
It's very moving for me because, like I said, 20 or 30 years ago, like most of my life, I was complete weirdo, right? Like in the sense that
Outsider,
like
Maverick.
just completely, and that was a part of myself I had to shut off for many years. And I just, I was having a good time. And I covered it up with drugs and alcohol, and I was partying, and I was a DJ. I was a software engineer. It wasn't like I had a crappy life, and I wasn't, I mean, but I to it's very hard to ignore. And so now here we are. I've been sober for a long time, went through all the healing. The transcendental meditation saved my life. Went through so many different things that brought me out the other side. And there was this lull for a while where I was happy, and happy not discussing these things we're talking about now. And it was okay. I'd healed from it. And then 2020 happens, and then it just all came bubbling back up. Right. And so now it's like every person that joins our community, whether you're a trust member or not, but the trust members, and especially the ones that correct their status and standing, because they're taking that stand, even though it's not in the mainstream media. This is not, you'll never find this there, because that's the opposite of what they want you to know. Right. We talked about this. It's like, why aren't doctors taught nutrition? Why? Because it's advantageous to a certain group or groups, right? Groups, to keep us sick and uneducated. It's advantageous, right? And so we take the lawyers, right? The bar attorneys, excuse me, attorneys, not even lawyers, attorneys, and we do the same thing with them. And they've only been taught legalese and ordinances and how to screw the people out of their money. That's what they learn. And people, the jokes about lawyers, they're all true. But it's not, because it's just, but the system that they're in, right? And we were raised, at least I was, my whole life growing up. It was grow up, be a doctor or a lawyer, doctor, lawyer, doctor, lawyer. Plus they're paid exuberant amounts of money for their time, and they go to the best schools in the world. And then how are you going to tell them that they're not, right? Like we were talking about Casey and what's her brother's name? They went on the Tucker Carlson and then went on Joe Rogan, right? From Stanford. Now we're seeing all these people speak out, and it's the most, this whole thing for me, Tia, is the most inspiring. It's the most inspiring time to be alive by far. 2020 was rough, but I can tell you the 30 years prior to that were much more rough on me than 2020. 2020 was more like inspiration, time to go.
Time to go.
So.
And it's like, you know what? We haven't got any time to wait. So I think this is the reason why with this series, for me, it was all about Together We Rise, because we get there as, as our consciousness touches another person's. And I think, it has to be practical. It has to be simple. It can't be too complicated. And I think there's also this desire in people to complexify things and make them look smarter, almost as if you're putting a smokescreen in front of them to see the real truth. And I think that social structures and educational structures are there in some way to fulfill insecurities of some people, perhaps, but not necessarily to tell you everything, because if you knew everything, I mean, you'd be God. But there's also this, but there is a selection process that goes on that may not be favorable to us. And I think when we decide that that isn't favorable to us, we really need to find another system that works for us. So it helps us to break out of the trappings of human inevitability, which is insecurity. It's almost like an innate sense of either selfishness or taking from another, or taking from the global commons and not putting it back, and being selfish. These are like these behaviors, or like addiction, or fear. They're there. They're a choice. You don't have to make that choice.
Mm,
You don't have to make that choice, but the choices are there. And many
yeah.
people do get trapped in that. I think now we're sort of like moving away not only from the systems and structures, because we can see, where scarcity models arise and where they fall and where they fail us. My first class of economics, it was scarcity is a study of resources that there is huge amount of competition over. The resources are controlled, and therefore so is the narrative and everything else that goes into the economy
Mm,
and the markets. And at one point I just didn't understand poverty, and at other points I didn't understand why the economy had booms and busts. At other moments I just didn't realize why we were paying for a credit crisis when the root of it was never really healed,
Addressed. Yeah.
never addressed. And so, we're really moving, I think, as a society to understand what the alternatives are. And I really do believe that the work that you're doing awakens people to those alternatives so that we can really integrate them. I'd love to know, I think we're coming into our final kind of like couple minutes, but I'd love to know what's your highest vision for the world to fully embrace freedom?
My highest vision. So our goal is to empower 1 million people by 2030. That's the goal. It's called a BHAG. Our big, hairy, audacious goal is to reach 1 million people and help them. It's changing the individual. We're not going to vote in. We're not going to vote out. That's something, again, back to what we were saying. We're looking without ourselves. We're looking outside of ourselves to a politician, to a public head, to an entertainer, to somebody famous, anything outside ourselves. We're looking to come save us and to somehow do what's best for us. When that's not how this game works. That's not how it is. But there's again these entities out there that they benefit from you constantly being in that, right? And so like we can look at I mean, everything, the way that the system's been constructed, we call it the matrix, right? Once you really know how you're a battery and they're sucking the life force out of you, right? Because these entities, they're dead entities. They can't actually create anything. So they have to use the living,
Mm,
right? And they rely on us being stupid. They rely on us not thinking for ourselves.
mm,
And I know, and we can see why, because when you do take that on, it is much more difficult to discern for yourself than it is just to take what's handed to you. It
mhm,
there in it, it's not even just the act of taking and
mhm,
ingesting, it's
mhm,
the opposite act of trying to think and
mm,
actually trying to find your way through the maze of deceit and then everybody's at their thing. And then some people, they come in and they hit a thing and they're like, there's no way that's it. And they
mhm,
lose it. Right. And but then they'll come back a few minutes later and they'll go back in. And that's how I found for a lot of people, it's an iterative process. It's not like, I know some people, they've had that experience. Well, they just wake up and they're Eckhart Tolle. And
yeah,
I just woke
right.
up at that moment where I had that one realization. That's not my experience. My experience, more like 1 billion little cuts by knife, right? So I didn't get the chop with the head thing. It's just been death by 1,000 cuts, right? So that my goal would just be to reach, if you know, we've reached so many different goals already. But what I would really like to see for humanity is a decentralized, trustless state where we can live our lives and have some form of governance that isn't relied upon an individual, man or woman. And that's just because even if we're not corruptible, we're convincible.
Mm,
And I
mhm,
would really like to see independence of the individual, right? The freedom of because that's the only way it's going to work. We're not going to go and say, hey, let's vote in our freedom and put our freedom in the hands of another and then expect it never to be manipulated or used in a nefarious way. Like that's just not, that's not smart of us because
mhm,
we know people are fallible and that's okay. That's
mhm,
okay. We have
exactly.
so much technology today that we can move that burden that
Mm,
burden of making these decisions to smart contracts on a blockchain and where we all have equal vote. Like that can be actually done,
mm.
right? Of course, these systems that are in place and the entities that do not want that to happen, right? And
No,
it's
no, we
but
have to.
we're witnessing it. Yeah, the
Mhm.
decentralization revolution. We're right in the smack middle of it, and we want to push that on.
And
Yeah.
we're just gonna hold that beautiful vision of yours because I believe very strongly that, to empower someone is to really give them power, right? It's not removing something from me to give it to them, but it's helping to see that fertilize in them.
Mm.
Um, how can how can our listeners, our audience, best support your mission? And whether it's directly through maybe taking the course on the 5 pillars of freedom, transformation, or whether it is maybe searching your website and perhaps how they can contact you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, the best way to do it, really, like you said, join the 5 pillars of freedom transformation. We have new live calls starting again at the first of the year, but you can go in and see the past ones and
Mhm.
really get primed for the next live calls. So there's that. Just going to the freedompeople.org, thefreedompeople.org. I'll give you a link. We talked about
Yes,
it.
we'll put it all in the show notes at the bottom as well. So there's
Sweet.
direct.
So that's the best place. We have like social groups, right? So that's and right now we're building out a whole new website using decentralized protocols and for networking and all kinds of stuff. So get in there. We have groups just like Facebook and stuff. So that's and I'm in there. Everybody's in there. We have from the website you can find our Telegram channel. We're on Telegram at the Freedom People, the Freedom People on Instagram, Facebook. We're pretty much all over. We can't put a lot of stuff on YouTube because they like to kick us off.
Yeah, not
For
surprised.
yeah.
That's what happened with Saya when yeah, when he started sharing what he did, all of a sudden Unite.live was born, and that's how it came
See,
about.
and that's why. And I was happy to be chilling in 2020, 2019. I was happy. They brought the fight to us. They brought it to us. And that's why I'm so full bore on it, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't pick this fight. We didn't
No,
start the
no,
fire.
no,
You
no,
know what
no,
I mean?
no. And I think that's the call of the time. It is, wake up. Wake
Mm,
up to wake up to what's actually happening. Keeping your eyes closed and going with the flow. There's there's like a fake river that's moving you in a direction to nowhere.
mm,
Or you
mm,
wake up and you realize that, whoa, when you have that moment when you're dreaming and you feel as if you're falling, it's like that moment. It's like, whoa, that was like a fake fall. This is like a fake river. It's taking you in a direction that you may not, when you're conscious of it, want to go to. So I think this is a real opportunity to follow your guidance in learning about alternative systems and structures of governance that can really help sovereignty and freedom become a central theme in people's lives, especially when it comes
mm.
to unity consciousness, which is what we're all about. Brad, it has been an absolute delight to have you on Together We Rise, and I very much hope that everybody in our world will have that level of freedom that you envision for us. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been an honor. This is awesome. Thank you.